we're going to be talking about Kandi Burris and Todd Tucker. So, a lot is going on with Kandi and Todd because they are getting a divorce. We also know them for being married and their relationship playing out right in our faces. So, we are very familiar with Kandi as a boss and a mogul, and Todd and Kandi relationship becoming a marriage right in front of us on television. So let's talk about it because nobody wants to really think about things when they're in love and they're starting a relationship. So when you're in love, you're not thinking, about the wedding, about these things that may come up that may be more than just what you think. So somebody out there has been through this and knows exactly what we're talking about. So something nobody wants to think about when they're in love. They're not really thinking about the wedding or the lifestyle or the businesses that you build together, right? But the exit strategy, right? You don't want to think about the exit strategy when you're in love because you just don't. But if you don't plan your wealth correctly, then your relationship can cost you millions. So we see this with these high level relationships, celebrity millionaire relationships, and these high income earners in relationships. And we see it play out in front of us all over. But you don't want to think about that. And it's like if you could have thought about that ahead of time, in retrospect and hindsight, you may have. Okay. So today we're breaking down the relationship dynamic between Kandi Burris and Todd Tucker and what their situation can actually teach you about taxes, business ownership, and protecting your wealth like a CEO. Okay. Because this is how we do it on Tax Millionaire Blueprint. Okay? Tax free millionaire blueprint. We're going to break it down. Okay? So, the financial strategy. Let's start here. Kandi is not just a reality star, Kandi is a business machine. So, we're talking about music royalties, restaurants, production, licensing deals, multiple income streams stacked on top of one another. So Kandi is a business machine and she has been doing this for a very long time. Now, Todd Tucker came in the marriage in a relationship when she was on Atlanta Housewives, and he came with production experience, industry knowledge, and he helped build alongside her. But this is the question that most people miss. When two people build together, who actually owns what? So if you and your partner are building together, who owns what? Because being in love does not override contracts. So you could be in love and all lovey dovey with your partner, but if you have things in place, these things are in place, right? And if you don't, then you don't. So the mistake that I see every day is that people mix their emotions with their income and their ownership, and it creates zero structure moving forward. So when things go left, then they're fighting. So then you see the relationship is unraveling, and then they start to fight. And they're fighting over things like the business, they're fighting over assets, and they're fighting over the different income streams that are there between them. So instead of already having it defined. Now, if you already have it defined, made up in an agreement, these are things that you don't have to fight over. These are things that is less of an argument. It's less of a debate. in the instance that you are going to separate or divorce from someone. Okay, so imagine this at a high level, though, like Candy, because average people or lower income people, they go through this same thing. And so does high earners. It doesn't make it a difference because they're earning more or because they're a millionaire. Anyone can go through this, a divorce or a settlement that causes problems for long periods of time if they don't have it and they have these dragged out battles, over the business, over the assets that they have, and over, children and custody and things like that. So imagine at a high level, you have intellectual property, royalties that pay forever, brand equity. That's not just money. That is more than money. That is something that you cannot really just say, you know, um, one thing. You really have to structure this in a way where you can keep these things and basically create generational wealth. So this is not just money. This is not a check. This is not a paycheck. This is not some sort of, you know, basic type of income structure. So Candy was creating generational wealth from the beginning. She was creating generational wealth and she was creating and building for years to come. So let's say this tax reality check. Now let's bring taxes into this, okay? Because this is when it really gets real, when taxes are in this. Then it really gets real, okay? So let's just say you're married. The IRS doesn't care about your feelings, okay? They care about filing status, income reporting, ownership structure. This is what the IRS cares about. The IRS is not interested in what's going on in your marriage and how great the marriage is. That's not for the IRS to decide or worry about. So if businesses are jointly owned, poorly documented, or mixed financially, then you could end up overpaying taxes, losing deductions, or worse, you could lose control of a company that you own. And if a separation or divorce happens, like we're seeing right now with Candy and Todd, the government, the IRS, is still going to get paid while you are splitting what's left. Okay, so that's why I talk a lot about keeping the money that you earn and not just throwing it away on taxes and having a tax strategy, because this is where it starts to make sense and this is where you need it most. Okay, so the IRS will take their money and you will split what's left of that portion. Okay. So the wealth protection play, you have to protect your wealth. Now, let me give you the game on this. This is what high level individuals do differently from average people. Now, this is, like I said, anybody can go through these situations, but high income individuals, what they're going to do is they're going to look at it differently. Okay? They're going to do things differently. They're going to create separate entities. Okay? Every business should stand on its own, not I run everything out of one account. So you have to have a account for each business that you have, right? So LLCs, entities, S corps, holding companies, and you also must have defined ownership. Who owns what? Not just between or verbally. This has to be on paper. Who owns what? Who owns what part of the business? Who owns what business? And how is it being run? On paper, clearly. Not, well, we built it together, because a lot of people say that we built this company together. We built this together. But the thing is, the IRS doesn't care. They want to see paper and they want to see that this thing is clearly defined. So that's not going to hold up legally. So that's why we break it down on a tax free millionaire blueprint, because we want you to know that's not going to hold legally. Basically, anyone can say they did anything and then it's going to be a dispute because it's not clearly defined. So is your contract in relationships, yes, and even in marriage, because contracts don't mean that you expect failure, which some people say, well, if you don't have a contract, you must think that everything is just going to work itself out, or you're expecting things to fail. No, it means that you respect your wealth and your money making situation, and you want to protect your wealth and your finances as much as possible. So you want to make sure you have it in writing. Another thing is income structuring. Not all money should flow the same way. So you need salary versus distribution, tax efficient payouts, strategic reinvestment. That's how you keep more of your money, is by structuring your income the right way. So let's be honest. A lot of people avoid this conversation because it feels uncomfortable when you're in a relationship. Imagine these celebrities or anyone else going through a divorce, and they have to now talk about this. Wouldn't it be better to talk about it while you both are on the same page, rather than when it's in a divorce? Because then, to me, it seems like that's when it's going to be messy. It's going to be a messy conversation at that point. And at that point is when it matters most, because if you would have an agreement clearly defined before you guys are on different pages, you wouldn't have this problem anyway. So let me say this clearly: without financial structure, it's a liability. So because you are more into what is going on in a relationship than in the agreements you have together, which is different. It runs the same course, but it's different. Your relationship with your family is different from your relationship in business, right? So because you avoid the conversation and it feels uncomfortable, now you're at this point. So love without financial structure is a liability, especially when one person is the primary earner. So one person is earning most of the money, and or one brand is significantly bigger. So you have a brand, this one has a brand, but your brand is outshining the other person's brand. Your brand is growing quicker. Your brand is making more money. Or one person built wealth before the relationship. That's also a thing. And this is what Kandi and Todd had in their relationship as well. But Kandi had a prenuptial agreement. So she could protect some of the wealth that she had prior to the marriage. Okay, so you want to just protect your time, your work, and your legacy, not even just your money. You put a lot of time. Imagine working hours and hours, days and days on business, and then it completely grows, and then you find someone and you get married. It's You have a premarital asset. And if you don't have a prenuptial agreement, it's going to become a marital asset, a joint asset between the marriage, because you are now married. So these are things, and you put in so much time, so much energy before you met your partner, before you guys even thought about marriage. And now you have to think a different way because you didn't plan or put an agreement in place. So protect your time, your work, and your legacy. Okay, so what you should take from this is that whether you are dating, whether you are married, building with a partner, okay, here's the checklist for you. Know what you own, structure your businesses properly, keep clean financial records, don't mix everything emotionally and financially. A relationship is very emotional. Financial needs to be separate from your emotions. Okay, you don't want your emotions to mess up your finances. And most importantly, plan the exit, even if you do not never plan to use it. So even if you don't see a divorce, you should still have a divorce plan option so that it doesn't take so much from you that you actually will still be hurt from it years to come. Okay? Because that's what wealthy people do. That's what smart people do. They make sure that they plan an exit before they even need an exit. So let me tell you, at the end of the day, Kandi didn't just build an income, she built systems. Okay. And that's difference. That's the difference between people who make money and people who keep money. If you're serious about protecting your income, your business, your future, you need more than hustle. Okay. You need strategy. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this video. If you like to see me break down celebrity tax-free millionaire blueprints, how to build wealth and how to create strategies in your life just like the wealthy people do. So I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel.